When I moved into the house outside Portland, I thought it was the perfect spot for a fresh start. It was small, cozy, and tucked away, exactly what I needed. The first couple of weeks were uneventful. Work was routine, and my evenings were quiet. I'd come home, unwind on the couch, maybe meet up with my friends, Josh, Cassie, and Kim at Rusty's Diner. But things started feeling off. It was small at first, the kitchen window. I'd come home and find it open. Not wide open, but enough to make me question whether I had closed it. I told myself I was just being forgetful. Then it happened again. I knew I hadn't left it open this time, but I brushed it off. Old houses have their quirks, right? Then, one night, as I was lying in bed, I heard creaking upstairs, like footsteps. It was faint, but enough to make my heart race. I stayed perfectly still, listening. The noise didn't happen again, but I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was there. I started locking everything up obsessively, double-checking doors and windows. But the strange things kept happening. One evening, my car keys disappeared. I always left them on the table by the front door, but they were gone. I tore the house apart looking for them. Panic set in. I bought a security camera after that. I thought it would give me some peace of mind. But the next morning, when I checked the footage, all I saw was static. That's when I knew something was really wrong. A few days later, I found a note on the kitchen table where my keys used to be. 4 words, "I know you're here." My blood ran cold. Someone had been inside while I was gone. They were watching me. That night, I grabbed a knife and searched the house. I made my way to the kitchen, my heart racing. When I reached the table, I saw my car keys sitting right there. Relief washed over me, but the fear was still there, thick in the air. I couldn't stay here any longer. I bolted out the door, heart pounding, and jumped into my car. I sped over to Cassie's place, my mind racing. I didn't want to believe someone was in my house, but deep down, I knew. The police didn't find anything when I reported it. They said I was stressed, maybe I'd forgotten things. But I know someone was in my house watching me. They're still out there, and I'm starting to think they're not done yet. When he moved into that house outside Portland, I knew it was the perfect opportunity. I'd been watching him for weeks, studying his habits and routine. His cozy, tucked-away house offered just enough privacy for him to feel safe, but not enough to keep me out. I made sure of that. He was predictable. Work, home, sometimes a diner visit with friends. Josh, Cassie, and Kim. They'd laugh and chat, completely unaware I was there, watching. At first, I did nothing but observe, but eventually I wanted more. I needed to make my presence felt. It started with his kitchen window, which I would leave open just slightly. I knew he'd never leave it open himself, and when he noticed it, the confusion on his face was exactly what I wanted. He convinced himself it was nothing, maybe a draft or something, but the doubt was planted. Over time, I escalated. I snuck into his house when he wasn't there, carefully moving things around without leaving a trace. Then I upped the game. I crept up the stairs one night and let the floorboards creak just enough to wake him. He froze in his bed, terrified but unsure if it was real. It was all part of the plan. His paranoia grew. He started obsessively locking doors and windows, checking everything twice. That's when I took his car keys. Watching him panic, tear the house apart, searching for them, was almost too much fun. He was losing control. Then came the security camera. I disabled it the same night he set it up. The next morning, when he found nothing but static, I knew he'd be shaken. I left him a note on the kitchen table. "I know you're here." The fear on his face when he found it was perfect. He grabbed a knife, searching the house in a frenzy, but I stayed hidden. I wasn't done yet. When he found his car keys later, there was a brief flicker of relief, but the fear didn't go away. It was inside him now. I followed him as he fled to Cassie's house, thinking he could escape me. He called the police, but they didn't believe him. No one ever does. They brushed it off, telling him he was stressed, but that fear stayed with him. He stopped going out, stopped meeting his friends, and locked himself away. He thought he could keep me out, but I was already in his head, living in his every thought. Each day, I watched him unravel. The note was only the beginning. I was always there, watching, waiting. He had no idea what was coming next, but he knew one thing for sure: he wasn't alone.